Yes. So I'm just going to record this as well, just so you know that, so that we have for folks that aren't able to make it today, they can watch it and review things. So I'm going to share just something really quickly to kind of give this overview of the network and the status of things right now, and then we'll jump into the federal updates. So 1 second. Okay. All right, is everyone seeing a diagram of sorts?
Yep, we see it.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, so just a reminder of sort of the network structure and the different types of groups that we now have in the new sort of newly formed network, the network 2.0. So here's a diagram of things that we have. In the center here, we have essentially 3 distinct types of groups: the topic exchanges, the priority strategy teams, and the communities of practice. And then the center of that is the network-wide exchange. And so the idea here is that there's distinct types of groups, but that they are in interaction with one another, and there's feedbacks and exchanges of information happening across the entire network. And then we have our steering committee above, which is kind of the oversight and guidance and governance. And then the backbone organization, which is the organization I work for, Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund, that provides support to the network. And just, for those who may not, I get too comfortable with assuming that people know who I am. So I'm Jake Claro, the Farm to Plate Director at the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund. So that's just a quick, again, just getting oriented to what the network structure looks like and how we're working together as a network to implement the new strategic plan. And then going down to the next page here, I'll talk about just the status of where we're at with getting various groups up and running. So the network-wide exchange here is at the top, and that's what we're here today meeting under. And so the network-wide exchange is up and running. This is our second meeting. Then our priority strategy teams, which are those that are dedicated to implementing specific strategies from the plan. So everything that's highlighted in, and it's, I'll try to zoom in as much as I can. So everything that's highlighted in green are groups that have already met, that have formed. And then the ones that are in yellow are sort of in process of forming. And then we have yet to sort of, there's still some work to be done about thinking about what the marketing team may be. But essentially, all of the priority strategy teams have either formed or are in process of forming in the next month or two. And so for those of you who may have signed up for any of these that are in yellow, just know that thank you for your patience of sort of hanging in with us, and that hopefully we'll have more communication soon about those groups in yellow forming. The Racial Equity Action Plan team, we have done some pre-survey work, and we're working out some plans to get that group going in probably July for, actually, we're trying to aim for an in-person. And then the communities of practice, I just have to move my, the communities of practice, all but one are sort of up and running and have formed, and we're going to hear about the CSA and healthcare today. The Farm Viability Indicators group is one that has sort of is a carryover from the previous network, and we're just going through some sort of rethinking what it may be or what the membership may be. And then going to the topic exchanges. So this is the topic exchanges will follow essentially the formation of the priority strategy teams, and these are designed more around facilitating communication, awareness, understanding of just key developments, in these kind of high level food system categories. And so we're making some progress on the 3 that are highlighted in yellow, and still more work to be done. I could probably put the food security one in yellow as well. So these are going to be meeting on a quarterly basis, much more topic focused and oriented, issue based. So again, stay tuned for more on those. And I think the climate, soil, environment, and environment group will be one that we're looking to try to work out a meeting in late June or July. So for those of you who've expressed interest in that group, just yeah, stay tuned. There's things that might be coming soon. And then the sort of the backbone and steering. So steering committee, just to say that we are going to be adopting a hybrid model with standing seats and also seats by application. We have not put out the application yet, just waiting for sort of the network groups to form before we actually then put together our steering committee. But for those of you who might have an interest in that, feel free to email me, jake@vsjf.org, and just know that we will be putting out an open application for seats, and that there will also be designated seats to the steering committee as well. And then also seats held by folks who are leaders in the network, who might be leading, you know, these various groups. So that's just that on where things are at with the network, and we're going to be hearing about some of these groups in our updates. Any clarifying questions or before we move on to the federal updates? And I'll actually stop the share here if I can. One second, I gotta get my menu bar back up. There we go. All right. Okay. Yeah, Alex DePillis, you got your hand raised.
Hi, yeah, can I still spam people on the old email addresses?
Yes. And actually thank you for that. So 2 additional pieces before we move to the federal update. So one is that, yes, so right now the group listservs are still active for the old group listservs. And that brings up another important piece, another important update is that our new website, we are aiming to launch that officially. It looks like the first full week of June, so like June 6th. And you all will be receiving some communications about just, we will have to basically go through a week and a half to 2 weeks of not allowing new postings and sort of just a transition period for us. So know that that's going to happen in mid-May, probably in a week or 2 weeks from now. And yeah, so that's coming. And with the new site, it looks like we will be using the same sort of listserv service, but some of the groups will have new listservs, which we have to kind of repopulate. And that know that the topic exchanges map to some of the groups of the prior network. So some of those lists will actually be consistent with the list that you're using now. I know there's a lot sort of packed into that, but yeah, so there will be also soon, we will have designated listservs for all of the new groups with the launch of the new site. And that will be, we're just really looking forward to that and really excited about it, because that just adds a level of certainty and security and infrastructure that we've sort of been limping along in this transition period. So thanks for that, Alex. And then also, I think is a good time to introduce my colleague, Kelly Dolan, who's the new Farm to Plate Network Manager. And Kelly, just want to say a quick hi. And
Sure, it's really great to connect with everyone. I've been with Farm to Plate for about 2 months now and just supporting the different groups within the Farm to Plate network. So I've connected with some of you already and look forward to connecting with more of you in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh, there we go. Now I've stopped the share. Okay, so now we are gonna go to our congressional staff, and I don't know if I'm going to be turning to one of you as sort of the point person. Usually we've got Tom Berry, who's our courageous coordinator, and I know we've got a lot of sort of first time callers from the congressional offices with us here today. So what we're kind of looking for is just insight into what's happening at the federal level. I know there's a lot of intrigue about congressionally directed spending requests. And I know answers of certainty are hard to provide at the federal level, maybe at this stage. But yeah, I don't know, Will or Sarah or Alex, who wants to sort of lead off and coordinate.
Well,
Hi,
I think
everybody.
vision goes to the senior senator.
Well, yeah. Hi, everyone. I can hop in. My name's Alex Morris. I handle nutrition issues for Senator Leahy. I know a few of you on this call. I think I can tackle the congressionally directed spending question off the bat, and can only speak to the Senate procedure on this. So we'll maybe let Alex Piper talk about the House process, but we're currently right now in our final stages of evaluating all of the projects that were submitted to our office. And we will soon be submitting member priorities to our Appropriations Committee. These priorities will then be vetted by the committee and ensure that they're eligible uses of funding and allowable under the certain accounts that have been set aside for congressionally directed spending. And so once that process takes place, we will be posting public disclosure of these projects that were selected and hope to let all of our applicants know about our decision at the latest mid-June, probably. And then once that happens, then these priorities will be included in the draft appropriations bills that will then have to go through a hearing and markup in the Appropriations Committee, then be voted on by the Senate and hopefully reconciled with a House version of the bill by the start of the fiscal year, which is the end of September.
I can hop in with a few more updates from Senator Leahy's office. My name is Maya Cohn. I work on some of the agriculture and environment issues down here in DC. Work closely with Tom, who sends his regrets, and he's very sorry he can't be here today. So just a brief Farm Bill update. Some of you might have seen that I think 2 weeks ago was the first Farm Bill hearing in the Senate. It was held in Michigan, and listening sessions are beginning to be scheduled for this upcoming summer. So we're at the front end of that process, and also have kind of an exciting update, or the beginnings of an update. Last May, Senator Leahy led a letter to Secretary Vilsack urging the USDA to allocate some money to one-on-one business technical assistance for small and mid-sized farm and food businesses. And last week, the USDA actually got in touch with us saying that they're in the final steps of setting up some regional food business centers, which are going to do just that. They'll work on providing regionally specific one-on-one business technical support for small and mid-sized farms and food businesses. And they're hoping to open up their application process within the next few months. They're going to be looking at universities, nonprofits, state and local governments. So really broad eligibility for the entities that will actually run this program. And so if you have any feedback or questions about this, please feel free to get in touch with me or Tom Berry.
Great, thanks, Maya, for that. Yeah, Will, I think you've unmuted.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, Will Stevens. I'm outreach representative for Senator Sanders. My responsibilities include agriculture, small business, and nutrition. As Alex said, the CDS season is from our shop is either beginning, midway, but it's not ending. We had hundreds of applications. We've been spending every day since the April 22nd deadline reviewing them. vetting them, putting them together so they can send them over to the Appropriations Committee for their review. So we've started a couple of accounts have already gone over. It'll be another couple of weeks, and I agree with the deadline. It's probably mid-June by the time we'll be able to roll out any information. Not a lot to report, honestly, and unfortunately, about farm and food things from our camp. No new action on universal free school meals legislation or Build Back Better, but my boss remains committed to both. As maybe many of you know, Women's Health Protection Act will be up for a Senate vote tomorrow. And on Thursday, Senator Sanders and the Budget Committee is going to hold a hearing on Medicare for All in advance of re-releasing a new bill later this year. Bernie's also signed a number of letters of support for increased funding for food and nutrition programs that go into the programmatic requests to the Appropriations Committee, such as the Summer Food Service and Commodity Support Supplemental Food Programs, as well as ag programs such as SARE, National Organic Program, and Conservation Technical Assistance through NRCS. The Farm Bill came up, and as always, I'm interested in hearing from anybody and everybody who's got a perspective on the upcoming Farm Bill, and I can put my contact information in the chat. And that's it for me.
Great, thanks, Will. And so Alex from Representative Welch.
Yeah, thanks all. Alex Piper here in Representative Welch's office. I handle agriculture, environment, nutrition, whole suite. And then Kelly is also on the line, my colleague in our Burlington office. We're a little bit ahead of the Senate on the congressionally directed spending process. So our deadlines were all, our actual submission within Congress's deadlines were all last week. So we're now working with appropriations to make sure all of those are applicable and submitted correctly. And we should be releasing those publicly in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, basically whenever we get approval. On the Farm Bill side, there's been some hearings in the Agriculture Committee here, a lot of preliminary work. It's a complicated time going into a Farm Bill with a lot of change expected before we actually start drafting that legislation. So a lot of the work this year is going to be very preparatory and hopefully productive in nature, but it's one of those, it's a big open-ended question. Something that I really encourage all of you to get in touch with us about. The congressman's always played a big role on Farm Bill negotiations and products and hopes to continue to do that. So please check in and reach out to Kelly and myself on all things Farm Bill. We also last week with CDS submissions submitted all of our appropriations requests for this next fiscal year, including WIC Farmers Market, organic program, and top to bottom support for ag and food programs. So happy to kind of go into more detail or talk offline on those things, but that's the general update. And Kelly, I'll let you jump on quickly too if you want to say hi.
Hi, everybody. I cover hunger and nutrition for Congressman Welch in his Vermont office. I will put my contact information in the chat as well. And just want to mention, just to add to what Alex said, Congressman Welch also signed a Dear Colleague letter that supports a request for full funding of the emergency food assistance program. So just wanted to mention that as well.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Alex and Kelly. And yeah, and putting the contact info in the chat would be wonderful. I know it's just a lot of changes in staff that it's good to have that information out there too. Any so questions, comments, wonderings for our for the federal delegation staff? I'll just pause for a second for people to collect thoughts. Yeah, Ellen, go ahead.
I would love to hear from the three of you, how can we best send ideas for what we would hope would get added in the various titles of the Farm Bill at this point? Or is it too late for that?
Would honestly just say, just email us. I think the Farm Bill is definitely in its pretty preliminary stages, and they're still soliciting input from members about what they would like to see in it. So we're always happy to hear what's important to Vermont right now. And obviously we're a little limited in how much we can do with the Farm Bill in our last year, but that doesn't mean that we're still not engaging in it.
Yeah, same thing. Sooner the better, but definitely not too late. And email, and then we can set up a time for a call or whatever's needed is the best way to get in touch and let us know what you're interested in.
And we've
Yeah.
got it. Oh, go ahead,
Absolutely.
Will. Go ahead, Will.
No, just, yes, what they said.
Okay. I did a strong ditto. And so we've got a question in the chat, and then Maddie, I'm going to go to you after the question in the chat. So Eric DeLuca was asking, what are the strongest, best funded ARPA funded resources that are underutilized or overlooked?
I'll be happy to take that question back to my shop and get back to you, Eric.
Yeah, I was going to say no rush, but I think it's an interesting question because a lot of the money that's in play is coming through that, and some things are in motion, and some things are dependent on getting drawn upon, and some things are making their way out of agencies as time goes on. So I know some of the climate smart ag stuff has come in, and some of the cooperative agreements and support for business technical assistance is coming through. So happy for any insights from any of the delegation staff as time goes on that point, because I think there's still a lot of money flowing through states and other channels to hit the ground through that bill.
Great, thanks for that additional clarification too, Eric. Okay, so Maddie, and then just to note that Ellen has added some of her suggestion, Farm Bill suggestion into the chat. So go ahead, Maddie.
Well, following Ellen's lead, maybe I'll just copy and paste our Farm Bill platform in there too. I was wondering, and apologies not to be on video, for our staffers, if your bosses are planning to be in state at all this summer, and if they're interested in meeting with specific folks, farmers or other people in the food system, because I think there's a lot of people on this call today, myself included, who can help facilitate that. So just either share right now or feel free to reach out, if you have information about sort of what types of events and coordination would be helpful from us.
I think if you have any specific events in mind, you can just directly email them to us, and then we can pass that along to our scheduling group. I know that August tends to be a good time for a lot of the delegation because we're in recess, and there's a pretty high likelihood that the members will be back in the state, at least for a portion of that.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Will.
exactly. You can either do it through me or direct to the office. I would forward any requests onto our scheduler, but you're welcome to work through me.
And Maddie and anyone else, I can make no promises, but I would love to kind of schedule some kind of listening sessions or roundtables for the congressman this summer on some Farm Bill specific issues. And that's something we've been considering and talking about, but it's all, TBD. And I think if we can get together and discuss some ideas and put together some thoughts that could be helpful and potentially doing something like that. So thanks for the reminder and the suggestion.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks all. And we've got one, we'll take one more from Carrie, and then we'll sort of shift to our other items on the agenda. So go ahead, Carrie.
Thanks. Alex, what you just said made me realize that I had heard there was a conversation to request a regional listening session for the Farm Bill in the New England region. Are any of you aware of that request, or have you heard anything about whether that is likely or unlikely. I know it's something that would have to happen this summer if that was going to happen, but no, there's a lot of.
I heard from Faye from Hunger Free that there was interest in a New England regional listening session. Unfortunately, a lot of the listening sessions have generally happened outside of the New England region. But I think we are going to talk about it internally and see what the committee is thinking about that.
Great. Yeah, I think it was a conversation I heard from Maine or Massachusetts, maybe who were thinking about the same thing. So maybe there's enough regional energy that we can draw some attention to New England for this farm bill. Just keep my fingers crossed.
All right, so we've got a to-do there. Let's get that regional listening session going. Okay, so so thank you so much, all of you, Alex, Maya, Will, Sarah, for being here on the call today. It's a huge help, and just feeling that connection with what's going on in DC is always nice. So really appreciate it. So with that, now we'll transition over to a couple of project updates that are happening here in Vermont. And to start, I'm going to go over to my colleague Becca Warren to talk about the food security plan or food security priority strategy team. And so take it away, Becca.
Thanks, Jake. Hi, everyone. I am Becca Warren. I'm part of the backbone staff at Farm to Plate now, and my focus is really on priority strategy 24 to develop a food security action plan or roadmap for Vermont. And so I'll first describe our planning process for that a little bit, and then I'll talk about where the priority strategy team is at. So our aim is to have a food security plan 1.0, so about a year from now. So 1.0 meaning to indicate that it's not a static plan, but rather an action-oriented handbook that will probably change over time as hopefully we make amazing progress on food security in the state together through our united work. So it'll be really an action handbook, an implementation handbook for people across the state to know what shared actions are being taken and what actions can be taken to improve food security. So that's hopefully the audience will include legislators, and all the way down to folks working in their community garden. So big, ambitious plan. It will weave together all the expertise from across sectors that impact food security. So that includes food production, and from Vermont communities who are living with the failures of the food system. So whether that's a physical community, really remote town up in the Northeast Kingdom, or a demographic group that's more impacted by food security than is equitable. Not that food security is ever equitable, but so we've had a lot of folks sign up to be part of this priority strategy team in the fall. And so we started working in smaller groups to develop the planning process and the research questions. And we are just now starting a larger stakeholder engagement process for the plan to reach out across the state and hear from a wide variety of people about food security and their wishes and needs. So stakeholder engagement will be happening throughout the summer and fall. So those will be like listening sessions, interviews, one-on-one conversations. An idea of the scope of that stakeholder engagement: when we're talking about stakeholders, we're thinking about health stakeholders, transportation, housing, food production, distribution, hearing from people who are living with the barriers to food security, getting all that stakeholder input and folding it together with research that's already been done, projects that have been successful, strategies that are known to be successful in state, nationally, internationally, and then we'll draft the plan in the fall, basing it on that research and the stakeholder process. And then there will be review of the plan over the new year. So January, February, will be reviewing the draft plan, and that there will be a way for everyone to be involved in that, who wishes to be involved in that plan review as well. And then the final version of the plan will come out about a year from now, which seems so far yet so near. So it's really exciting, and it's exciting to be involved in a project with not only the variety of stakeholders that are in activist network members, but also this topic area, as you all know, is one of the many areas in the Farm to Plate network that has multiple structural factors involved as we think about creating food security. So I think we're all experiencing already that it's a great way to be reaching out to non-ag focused sectors, and that's really exciting. So because we're starting with the stakeholder engagement process now, I'll be reaching out to all the folks who signed up to be part of the priority strategy team. Not everyone's been engaged in coming to meetings because they've been smaller meetings at this point, really topically focused, but I'll be reaching out to everyone to instruct folks how they can start to be involved with outreach and listening sessions and research. So if you signed up in the Google form to be part of the priority strategy team, you will hear from me. And if you don't know whether or not you did sign up to be part of the priority strategy team for food security, and you want to, you can just reach out directly to me, and I'll put my email into the chat. It's just my first name as spelled in my video cube, BECKA @vsjf.org. That's just like a big overview, and I'm happy to take any questions that are I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, so questions, thoughts for Becca?
I explained everything perfectly. I love it when that happens.
Nailed it.
All right, but really reach out to me anytime. I'll put my email in the chat box.
I was gonna say, Becca, I'm just gonna wait just a few more seconds. I don't want to let you off the hook quite yet. There might be. All right. So no questions for Becca?
How do I do it all? That's what everyone's question is.
Yeah. Yeah, getting some good positive reinforcement there too in the chat. Thanks, Katie. All right, well, thanks.
Katie.
Yeah, thanks, Becca. And definitely, yeah, looking forward to sort of what's going to be unfolding in the summertime here with the stakeholder engagement. So shifting gears a little bit to a different area of the food system, but one nonetheless that does have a connection to food security. We're going to hear from Kevin Channel, who's underway with developing what's sort of broadly described as a dairy beef sire breeding program. And so Kevin's going to explain what that is, what it entails, and what the goals of that are. So Kevin, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jake, and hi, everyone. I'll try to give a little bit of background to start off. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, there was a little feedback, and my voice is looping on it too, but
Okay. Let me Is this better?
Yeah, that's good.
Just try to give you a little bit of background on the project. Back in 2018 and 19, I was a business consultant with the Intervale, and we started to see an increasing need for some of the small and mid-sized dairies to diversify their income streams to weather some of the commodity fluctuations and the low commodity pricing. And we started to perceive an opportunity in beef. And about the same time, Chuck Ross put out a white paper describing the state of the dairy industry in Vermont and the rapid decline in the number of farms and the number of closures, and the call to really do something. And that he put that out at the Vermont, the Farm to Plate conference in Killington. Some of you were there, and there was a rapid response and a good discussion on it. Meanwhile, we had some beef producers we were working with who wanted to work on early detection of marbling potential in their sires, meaning do an ultrasound test at 6 months to yearling stage to understand what the potential of their bulls are to increase marbling for their beef products. And so we started to incorporate a genetic conversation and use of ultrasound technology for those beef producers. And one of the main outcomes of Chuck's white paper was that we really need to build some collaborative, cooperative efforts in marketing to some of the big metro areas for any products coming out of Vermont. And so we merged some of these ideas and thoughts and opportunities. And in 2020, we started an assessment on the readiness of both the beef and the dairy sectors for a beef on dairy initiative. And that readiness survey or assessment allowed us an opportunity to work with some of the players, the producers who are active in this space, interested in getting involved, investing in this space. And we wanted to really assess what the economic opportunities are at the farm gate level. And what we saw is that beef brokers, dairymen, even the beef producers who are either backgrounding or finishing animals are all interested in developing the supply chain of calves for beef production, and are certainly interested in collectively accessing some of these metro markets in our region. So at the end of that assessment in 2020, that was sponsored by Farm to Plate as well, we made a recommendation that we develop a pilot study or a pilot demonstration where we take 100 animals, be very specific about the sires we select, and collectively produce those beef animals, meaning have the dairymen breed the animals, move the calves to calf raisers, backgrounders, move those animals on into the supply chain to finishing facilities, and then work with our brokers to develop a branded product that is rooted in Vermont, born and raised. And I think that's a unique value proposition to the market right now. And we are embarking on that pilot demonstration now. We start breeding animals next month, and we'll have those calves on the ground. We'll have a spring crop and a fall crop in 23, and we're going to evaluate both the genetics and the feed programs, and work with the buyers on what the marketable value is of those carcasses. So that's an initiative that's underway and funded for the first year with the Working Lands enterprise funding, and is sponsored by Farm to Plate. Excited to be a part of it. So.
All right, thanks, Kevin. And literally, you're on the road. Are you going to meet with some people who are part of the project right now?
No, I'm coming out of farm country back into civilization here. I've got a little league game I got to coach later, so I had to get halfway.
Questions, comments, thoughts for Kevin? Reactions? All right. Oh, yes, Bruce Hennessy, go ahead.
Hi, Kevin. I'm wondering in your, I've heard about this project before, and I think it's really, really interesting and full potential. And I'm wondering if you have identified backgrounders and stalkers and finishers for this program going forward, and what that process is.
Yes. The big gap that came out of our assessment, Bruce, was the gap in calf raising. And we still have an opening for organic calf raising. And that's taking day-to-week-old groups of 10 to 12 crossbred calves and raising them to finish. We have a conventional producer who's going to take the conventional calves, but we're looking for an organic calf raiser. That's the only gap we have right now. We've identified stalkers, grazers, and finishers already for the rest of the project. And that just largely came out of the network of people who were interested back in 2019, 2020. And as this project developed, we just stayed in communication. With only 100 animals, we're trying to spread it out among 6 or 7 producers total, try to keep it narrow and track it closely. And then we'll be farming out the information, all the learnings thereafter. We have in, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bruce.
No, thanks for that. I just appreciate it. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, we have in view, the potential for a cooperative marketing service for both value-added calves, yearlings, feeders, and finished cattle. So that's kind of where we're steering this in that direction. If you can imagine the cabinet of beef, so to speak, coming out of Vermont, that's kind of where we see the potential. The lower 30 to 40% producers on any dairy farm have open gestations that really aren't producing any calves of value unless you're crossbreeding and getting them into the beef sector. And we're trying to take advantage of that collectively in Vermont, and provide some collaboration and cooperation and coordination, really, to make that happen.
Awesome. Yes, Lena from Intervale. Did I get that right?
Yeah, hi, thanks.
Yep.
Lena from the Intervale.
Lena.
Appreciate it. This is like not my, I don't know anything about beef, so please forgive the question, but really cool to see a cooperative effort springing up, and obviously more economic resilience for farmers is a good thing. I guess I'm curious about if you've done any assessment about the climate impacts of increasing production of such a high carbon meat source.
Yeah, it's largely replacing idle infrastructure and idle land. So what we envision is, and this is what has actually emerged. Two of the 6 producers are former dairy farms. They have the barns, they have the infrastructure, they even have the feed available. And so it's just converting that feed to use in the beef industry instead of the dairy industry in most cases. And so I think it's a repurposing concept as opposed to an increase necessarily in our production of animal proteins. So if that's, I think we have a limited amount of open lands here in Vermont, and I think the concept is, how do we utilize that for the best economic outcomes for farmers? And that's really the focus we have. We've not really calculated much and don't anticipate much change in any kind of climate impact or carbon affect. So.
Yeah, great question, and thanks, Kevin. And Kevin, maybe you shared a report with me, but there might be a good resource to share on the sort of climate accounting of some of these beef supply chains. Just that would maybe be helpful for people to see that. I know you referenced a resource to me a little while ago, but yeah, really great question on that. So thank you. And Bruce, I'm assuming your hand is just stayed up, but you're all good.
Apologies.
No, it's okay. I just want to I want to make sure if you have another question, please. Yeah, great conversation. Thanks, Kevin, so much. And with that, if there aren't any other questions, we're going to transition to our final sort of network group project or community practice update, and that's going to come from Heidi Lynch. So Heidi, go ahead.
Thank you, Jake. Hi, everybody. My name's Heidi Lynch, and I'm with the Vermont Farmers Food Center down in Rutland. And I'm going to share a little bit about our CSA and healthcare community of practice that has formed and been operating the beginning of this year. I'm going to give an overview of the group and just sort of how we formed and what we've been focusing on. So when I say CSA and healthcare, essentially our peer group are entities that are doing food as medicine projects or produce prescription type projects. And this community formed, we were established by a small team that was part of the Farm to Plate 1.0 health cross-cutting team. And we worked closely with Sarah Danley, the previous network manager, to sort of curate this idea and concept and get it going, knowing that it would integrate into the community of practice concept that Farm to Plate was bringing to this 2.0 version. So our intention was to use the community to continue to grow the CSA and healthcare connections in Vermont and increase the impact of these programs. And one of the lessons learned that we gathered from our health cross-cutting team was that the topic of health and food is overwhelming and can go in multiple directions without additional focus. So we thought that curating this specific peer group of entities and folks that were either currently implementing a CSA and healthcare program or actively beginning one was sort of the focus community. And we began by doing an invite only to just, again, kind of bring that intention and sort of curate that more focused conversation. And we had identified the landscape of projects and programs that were already operating or thinking about operating built off of some work that we did in the 1.0 health cross-cutting team. So we had done this survey and built sort of an inventory of different groups and projects that had identified in this way. So that's how we had our sort of initial sense of who that invite contact would be. And why we thought this focus in this group, again, where we could grow impact there, we had a good basis for it, was that we think that CSAs have a unique role to play at the intersection of local food and health in Vermont. This model, and as far as produce prescription programs and food as medicine, is one of the most mature farm and healthcare type and style of programs in the state. And it's a familiar model and program, both in a healthcare practice connections and organizations implementing. So we thought that all of that meant that there was a great opportunity for sort of like common points of connection and peer sharing. And there was also a good mix of mature programs and sort of startup and emerging programs. So again, just a ripe opportunity for a community to really focus and share on those peer connections. And then we also saw that there was great parallels between evidence-based programs that were happening at more like regional and national levels, so that there was resource there that we could tap into and either learn from or share out to and be part of that broader conversation. And again, we thought that through our collective experience and kind of convening of these entities that had this actual implementation, a lot of shared implementation, that we would be able to identify specific gaps in areas that we could develop and further explore in this group setting. So then in progressing to forming our group, what we did was we held a kickoff meeting it was December actually of 21. And at that group, we set our collective topics, sort of identified a laundry list of things we wanted to cover or topics of interest that we thought would be beneficial to the group. We set our meeting schedule. And what we've been doing is we've been meeting actually first and third Mondays of the month, so pretty frequently, beginning in January. So it was kind of intensive, and we designed it that way for these first 6 months of the year, because we thought most of our programs ramp up right now in the growing season. So if we could really kind of put some concentrated effort and information, we could carry that into our busy season of implementing programs. So So that's been our schedule. We meet virtually, and then we have a group of us that are the facilitators. So we sort of work on the behind the scenes of, getting the agenda together and organizing us around topics, inviting speakers, things like that as applicable to the different topics. And then I do want to note that we have one of the partner agencies does have some grant funding that's supporting the facilitation component. And I just think that that's important capacity wise to note, because we're meeting especially this frequently, that it does take that support in terms of coordination and keeping the group managing the list, things like that. And I know as we're starting to work more closely with Kelly, Farm to Plate is also helping back up, like taking notes and things like that. So that's helping and bring the structure and, accountability and recording of what our group has been doing. And then we are going to pause our frequency. So beginning in June, we're going to meet less frequently. We haven't established exactly what that scaled back meeting will look like yet, but again, just heading into the busy season, we thought we'd give it pause, sort of let everybody take what we've learned and implement, and then we'll regroup and kind of redefine what we feel like is a beneficial meeting frequency. A couple other points that we've learned along the way that we want to share is just that keeping the group sort of an informational, open exchange, information sharing has been really beneficial. When we've gotten into more specific topics around like data sharing, collective data sharing as a community, or grant proposals, we've just realized that, this is a great space sort of for folks to convene and become aware of those types of opportunities, but then organizing them, in smaller dedicated groups or amongst entities that can then bring that more clarity and understanding around, what it means to data share, where that information is going, and kind of clear expectations. So just the open, informal, educational purposes exchange seems to be a really beneficial sort of guiding parameter for the community of practice. And then we have invited on some of our topics, they're open discussion, sort of a group dialogue around the topics that we identified, and we get really specific into things like, how we communicate with our members. We had a training from HIPAA. We had someone from the Harvard Law School that works on the food as medicine give us, how does HIPAA interact with, these community organizations and groups that are working at the intersection with healthcare. So the topics are really specific, again, like I was saying at the beginning, to those of us that are implementing these programs. So that's been really beneficial. And then another component to our meetings that has been great is that we have traded at the beginning of most of our meetings, not all of them. One of the participants will give like a presentation and kind of a deep dive into their specific program and their organization. And that's just been a neat way to kind of hear and get to see some of those details of a specific program and how it works. And that helps, draw out questions or conversation that sometimes we don't hit upon in the sort of broader topics. So, and that's just been a nice way to share resources as well. And we do have a Google Drive shared folder where we're starting to compile various resources, so everybody can kind of pop things in there that, they're open to sharing, and then everyone has that as a shared reference. So that's been our community of practice. I'll just say our attendance has usually been, there's about 10 to 15 of us that are sort of like regular attendees, and then, that ebbs and flows depending on the specific topic, and if we invite, other presenters or have details. And we'll be kind of pausing for the summer and then reconnecting on our topics and how we'd like to move forward for the rest of the year. So happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Yeah, questions for Heidi? Yes, Molly Anderson.
Thanks, Jake, and thanks, Heidi. This sounds so encouraging to see more programs popping up, and great that VFFC is still going strong with that. My question is whether any of the programs in Vermont are doing evaluations that include health outcomes, so that you can actually say, well, with the produce prescription program, we can see measurable health benefits of this population. I know it's really hard to track that. There are a lot of confounding factors, but what do you know about evaluations?
Yeah, I'm happy to do my best to answer, and I'll do my best to channel one of my colleagues, Helen Laban, who's one of the co-facilitators here because she loves this particular topic. But I'll just share that, yes, as you said, the challenge and around evaluation period, and then especially in measuring health metrics. And one of the areas that Helen's been really speaking to within the group and based on her research is that making sure that what we're evaluating is applicable to the program. So if are these programs, and I can speak, more specifically to ours, in nature, truly set up to measure and to address health outcomes in a really clinical way? Or are we really taking a community-based program that's more from a broader kind of population health, encouraging folks to go to their primary care visits and things like that. And then, in our sense, also having this sort of connection to like the local food and health from that perspective, is it appropriate to be evaluating those from a clinical evaluation perspective, or do we really need to have a different set of metrics, because that's truly the nature of how these programs are designed? And that programs such as medically tailored meals that kind of fall into this space where there's much more clear, like dietary sort of program and a specific kind of program that then you truly can measure and accurately get some health outcomes metrics as an impact of this program from. So if that helps answer your question, it's Helen again, like that to channel her, but it's a hot topic within the group, and it was in the health cross-cutting team 1.0, and it was something we always kind of struggled with and had circular conversations for this same reason, is that what are we trying to measure, why, and for who, and then are those measures actually from a clinical and sort of outcomes perspective a fit for these type of programs. And even at the national level, like the GUSNIP program has like produce prescription funding, and they have a strong evaluation component. But again, a lot of programs like we see in Vermont, we're sort of like, I can speak to, we're a nonprofit, running this very community program. We're partnering very closely and have for 8 years now with our healthcare partners, and we all, continue to participate in the mutual benefit, but metrics in a very scientific clinical way are not really what the outcomes of this program design is about. So that's mine, but Helen has memos and a lot more resources, so I can connect you with her, Molly, directly to follow up.
Great. Yeah, thanks. Great question as always, Molly, and wonderful response, Heidi. And definitely talk with Helen, Molly. She will go into even way more depth. Any other questions before we just open it up and see if there's any other important organizational announcements or news, or just general wonderings and questions that folks have as we've gone through the meeting today. So any more questions for Heidi? Okay. All right. So thank you, Heidi. Really appreciate that. That was wonderful. And now, we have some time to open it up, and we certainly don't have to stay here till 4:30, but I do want to give the chance for others to make any announcements or pose any questions or just thoughts to the group while we're here. And I can always also call, I can always call on people too. No one has anything else they want to share? Oh,
I can share something.
Go ahead, Katie.
My name's Katie Davis from Hunger Free Vermont. Hi, everyone. Heidi, that was super cool to hear about the community of practice. Sounds like it's going well, which is great. I guess one of the big announcements is that Universal School Meals Bill passed both the House and the Senate. And so we just have to hope that there's no veto, but it's really looking good. And thank you to so many people like on this call and around the state that really made it happen. One of my colleagues was reflecting about how much she saw just in the course of a week, how important some individual relationships related contacts, those kind of connections are really important, but also how like the groundswell of so many people reaching out and so many people, just kind of the sheer volume was also really beautiful. And she really saw that play out. So thank you to everybody who has been a supporter. So that's a happy note for a Tuesday afternoon. It's beautiful here. It all feels right with the world in this moment.
Yeah, here. And yeah, thank you, Katie, and everyone at Hunger Free. Just really, really incredible. It was, reflecting with a group 2 weeks ago of like, is this really happening? So really amazing.
It seemed like such a dream when we were talking about it 10 years ago, and to see it finally play out it's hope in a time when some things feel not so hopeful. So I hope I'll take a minute to soak it up.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. We need to soak in on the things that are good and good in the world right now. So thank you. So I'm gonna go, so Lisa Chase and then Olga after Lisa.
Congratulations, that's really wonderful news. And thanks to everyone. It's really great to hear the updates and see all the amazing work that Farm to Plate 2.0, the new Farm to Plate is doing. I want to mention that I'm involved with what used to be the Agritourism Task Force, now is the Agritourism Community of Practice. And we're scheduling our first meeting, looking most likely at May 26th. So I wanted to actually check in and make sure that's not conflicting with any other big network events or meetings going on then. And also say that, we'll probably, Open Farm Week is a project of the Agritourism Community of Practice. So we'll probably have an Open Farm Week committee meeting and also a Community of Practice agritourism meeting on that same day. And we love to host them on farms. So again, throwing that out there, make sure there aren't conflicts with dates. Everyone is welcome. And we haven't yet confirmed that date, but also we are looking for farms that like to host groups, especially ones that might have food, since we'll be there for a while, have a lunch break at some point. So just putting it out there, if anyone has ideas of farms that we should be visiting and meeting at, especially ones that like to host, and maybe could give us a little tour. You're muted, Jake.
Of course. So just to confirm that there are no network related conflicts for the 26th. So you're clear in that sense. I won't speak for everyone else on the call, but yeah, so send those farm suggestions Lisa's way. And that's great. Yeah, exciting that the COP is off and running.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's been really fun is there's been a lot going on. For example, we appreciate the request for congressionally directed spending, because that galvanized our team to get together and expand and really pull something together that we hope will get funded, but it was a useful process in its own right, and we'll look for additional funding sources if it doesn't get funded that way. But we're overdue to have an official Farm to Plate meeting, and it feels like now that 2.0 is like really launched, we don't have to wait for the website. We can go ahead and just meet, right? No waiting anymore, right? It's happening.
Right. Done waiting. The website will be launched right around that time, though.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no more delays. Yeah, thanks so much, Lisa. Yeah, go ahead, Olga.
Yes, I'm muted. Hi, everyone. I'm Olga Moriarty. It's really nice to see familiar names, including Jake. I was like, look at you. I remember when you were like an intern at NOFA. I worked for NOFA Vermont for years, left the state. Now I'm back. And I just wanted to share a new development, a new sort of campaign and organization that has launched in January. In response to the close to 135 different organic dairy farms that lost their contracts from Horizon and Maple Hill Creamery, of which there were 28, I think, in Vermont. The organization is the Northeast Organic Family Farm Partnership, sort of a mouthful. It was started by Gary Hirschberg, CEO, former, founder of Stonyfield, in response to these terminations and figuring out, what tools do we have available to ourselves right now to be able to create some more stability in dairy markets throughout the Northeast. And this is specifically for organic farms. So I'm like the sole staffer right now, but we are hiring a field coordinator and intern, and it's growing quickly as we work on our mission, which is to increase the demand for organic dairy that is produced in the Northeast. So while if any of you have followed this issue, which I know you have, there was a USDA task force that was working on creating recommendations for the USDA of what we need to do to shore up the markets, of which there's lots of recommendations and things that are really needed: critical infrastructure, distribution, increased marketing. And some of these things are being dealt with. However, they take time and they take a lot of investment. So in the meantime, Gary Hirschberg had this concept of, can we get a consumer-facing campaign so that consumers, when they're going to any place that procures dairy, so this is grocery stores, the co-ops, institutional markets like our universities, our state houses and prisons, our restaurants, our chefs, anyone who is is procuring dairy, can we create a seal, a label that shows that this dairy is coming from the Northeast? This is a brand that we should be supporting if you would like to support the dairy producers that are here in Vermont or in the region. There are 35 brands that have been identified as brands that do source directly from the region. They're found on our website. Then we ask consumers to identify those brands in the store. They do that by looking for this seal. So I'm in the process of inviting all of our restaurant and retail partners to then display those seals in the store. Imagine this as sort of like a buy local organic dairy campaign. There's a lot of attention right now on this. And I think partly because of Gary's influence in the organic market, but also has a really incredible board behind it. I'm happy to share more information. I would love to be a part of future conversations when we're talking about marketing campaigns. I am focused on the whole entire Northeast, including, Northeast has lots of different terms, but I'm focused on New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. So I'm working on finding those brands and those retailers in that area to support this campaign, and would love to share more. So I'm just going to put the website in the chat. Please be in touch. And again, I'd like to be, Jake, it's so nice to be here, and I'm just sort of getting my feet wet again in all these issues. So I'm happy to help out and collaborate and spread the word about this.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Thank you, Olga. And yeah, it's nice to not only see a face behind the campaign, but a familiar face.
Yeah.
You just couldn't get away from us, right?
Yeah. There's a magnet.
Yeah. So any follow-up questions for Olga about that, or additional resources that people are interested in?
Yeah, and Kevin, I just saw your DM to me, and I'll follow up with you. That'd be great to talk about beef. Oh
yeah, that's right. Yeah, see, that's great. I love those types of connections too that come out of these. So that's wonderful. Great. Okay, thank you, Olga. Yeah, we still have space for a couple more if willing. So any other updates, announcements, wonderings, things that we should know about? And feel free too to, if you prefer to put things into the chat, don't hesitate to use that as well. I'm getting more comfortable with awkward pauses and silence on Zoom, so I'm just gonna hold that for a couple more, give people the opportunity. Okay. All right. So I actually have one last announcement to sort of put a cap on things. So we have made the decision to hold our annual Farm to Plate annual gathering in person this year. So we are looking to hold it at Killington. But the one change that we were making for this year is that it'll just be one day rather than two. And deciding that based on just this will be the first time in 2 years now, I think it's maybe 2 years that we will be back in person, and just kind of wanted to slowly ease back into that, and also still just recognizing that there's still potential risks and health and safety things that we have to consider. So stay tuned on getting more information about breakout sessions and registration and all that very soon. And we really miss everyone and being in person, and so going to do our best to do that in the safest and sort of most comfortable way that we can for everyone. So with that, yes, Andy, Andy, ping pong has to take place at lunch. So to that point, we will still encourage people to stay the night if they would like to. One of the reasons also we're not doing the Friday is that's Veterans Day, it's a holiday. So just wanting to recognize that, and so people can kind of stay as they want to and make it a night, and have the day off the next day and do what they want with that. So we won't have programming on Friday, but we might still have like a breakfast and the opportunity to do things in the evening. So ping pong maybe will still be at night, Andy. Yes, and also Farm to Plate I'm getting all these DMs about like the things that I forgot to mention. Farm to Plate retrospective, which is our look back at the first 10 years of Farm to Plate, and really kind of the annual report of the last 10 years is now out, and Kelly Notterman might put a link to that. There we go. So there it is. Please do check that out. We're really just not only proud about what's happened in the 10 years, but really thankful and grateful, because it wouldn't have been a great 10 years without all of you. And so just a big sort of expression of thanks and gratitude to everyone who was a part of the first 10 years, and we're really excited about what it means for the next 10 years. So thank you, and check that out. And with that, please, thank you again, and please get outside and get your shorts out in the next couple of days. I think it's going to be in the 80s finally. So thanks everyone, and we will we'll let you know the next network-wide exchange meeting will likely be in early fall, late summer, early fall. So stay tuned on the exact date of that. So thanks again, and we'll see you later.